Very pleased to be joined here at Blogging the Boys by the one and only the incredible. She's going to tell us her top 50 movies of all time from NFL films. It is Michelle Navarrete. Michelle, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, RJ, and that's a great pronunciation of my last name. I appreciate that.
I do what I can. I want to wish you an early 3-year anniversary on a tweet that you had. Do you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
oh my God, I don't. I'm
Uh,
scared.
you tweeted this on. I'm a big NFL films fan to start.
Oh,
I
great.
I love NFL films. Love everything that you all stand for. I've had the joy of speaking with Paul Camerata, Shannon Furman, Chris Weaver. Chris
That's
is the
great.
man.
Yep.
Just love everything you all do. And so this tweet I think is very cool. On February 9th, 2022, there was a little video involved. You congratulated yourself, and you deserved it, because the NFL Films Instagram hit 1 million followers. So
Oh,
you're
yay.
you're almost
That's a good
there.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You obviously
Whew.
have a wide-ranging experience at NFL Films, and recently that includes the NFC East Hard Knocks, which, from a Dallas Cowboys standpoint, was very cool early
Mhm.
on, and then, it's great to enjoy from kind of an independent perspective, but not so much from a Cowboys one.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually also did the training camp season with the Cowboys, so I'm a
Hmm.
big fan of them. I mean, as an Eagles fan, like personal life, I'm an Eagles fan.
Right.
It's hard to say that sometimes, but I left like my family was so mad. I mean, when I left there that summer, and I was like, I'm rooting for the Cowboys all season. Um, but no, they're great. Everyone in that organization is great.
My first question is, I view what you all do as football movies. I know it's kind of a popular, sort of perspective here. And if we looked at it like a movie, if we forgot that it was, I don't know if the term documentary would be viewed as taboo or anything like that. But if we
Mhm.
looked at it like a movie, everyone knows the results, typically. Like everyone knows the end of the movie, which isn't the case typically when you watch a conventional movie. And so my
Mhm.
my question is, how do you approach that? And how did you approach that, obviously, in the assembly of this particular Hard Knock season?
I mean, it's kind of cliche because I feel like I hear coaches say this, but it really is like day by day. Like it
Sure.
was day by day, we were doing the best we could to put something great on screen, to capture some great content. I mean, the team was awesome to work with. The Eagles were fantastic. Um, and I think it was just week by week. Like Sunday, I mean, we were obviously prepared for like, in our minds, we're like, let's speak it into existence. So we're prepared for the next week and we're thinking, okay, like, what do we want to shoot? What things outside of like, because then it was going to be a good chunk of the show was just going to be the Eagles. So we're like,
Right.
okay, what things outside of things that we're already shooting are we going to shoot? So we're definitely planning ahead a little bit, but for the most part, we try to really stay like in the moment and making sure that just for the upcoming show, we're getting the best content that we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're referring to the season finale, which aired this past Tuesday, which covered mostly the Eagles' playoff loss, which, again, from a Cowboys perspective, not exactly the worst thing. It was, a solid
Yeah.
episode, in our viewpoint. But that sounds very coach speak as well, right? You have to balance with, in the Eagles' case, how much prep is being done for the Bears, but you're obviously focusing on the 49ers, things like that. So I can understand how that's the case. You did include in this episode a brief snippet of the Cowboys and the discussion around the firing of Matt Eberflus. And Hard Knocks is not a stranger to this. Obviously, the traditional Hard Knocks covers lots of player cuts and things like that. This,
Mhm.
I think, is a little bit different. And I'm curious if it felt that way for you, and what that was like, in terms of capturing both Brian Schottenheimer and Jerry Jones speaking on it.
I don't think it changes too much because I think as long as I mean we're pretty much picture lock on Monday night, right?
Hmm.
I mean there's been rare cases where like something huge happens and we're like we have to get this in the show. So then Tuesday the people back here are scrambling to put together a great, end of show breaking news type thing, but it's always if it happens within that week, it's very likely going to be on Hard Knocks. And I think the people back here at Films do such a great job with and feel because like you said, they had to get those interviews. But I think they do such a great job of making sure that that makes the show because they know that fans are going to be looking for that update and how people within the building are handling those news.
That's very cool, and I imagine very intense because, unlike the traditional Hard Knocks, you have to cover four different teams, four different storylines all happening at once. How grateful are you when something lines up? So, like the thing I thought about was the Dak Prescott moment where he became the Cowboys' all-time leading passer, and then he had the text from Jameis, and so it had to be very
Yeah.
fortuitous that you could connect those two things, as opposed to if you'd had a text from Justin Herbert or something.
Yeah, those moments are awesome. I mean, I think those are things that us on the field, we immediately flag them
Right.
to the people back home. And I think the people back home also get excited and get eyes on it right away. So I think those things, when we're able to kind of connect all the teams together, are awesome. And I think I mean, especially when they're good moments, right? I don't think we had any negative moments this season, but like the good moments, and when they're people like Dak and Jameis Winston, who's arguably the most likable guy in the league, like that's a win for everyone.
This season also, when it started on a very somber note for the Cowboys and for the NFL as a whole after Marshawn Nealon's passing. And so you all cover, I think it's easy to forget how much life happens with an NFL
Mhm.
team. This was obviously a devastating thing. How much tact do you how empathetic do you get? I mean, how, like, at a certain point, everyone's human nature takes over. I guess my question is, what was that like to have to include? Because it was something that happened to the team that is, for lack of a better way to put it, a relevant part of the story that's unfolding in this season, and you're capturing it and documenting it, but it's also something that's extraordinarily sensitive.
Yes, that's a good point because I think for moments like that, it's what is being captured that we can use to cover that.
Hmm.
Because I think it's hard to speak on a topic like that when you're not, it's hard to speak for the Cowboys, I should
Right.
say.
That's a great way
So
to
I
put it.
think, yeah, so I think it was to cover something like that. Obviously it was something that was being talked about, that was someone that they were mourning. So it was, I think because of that, it was a given that it was going to be in the show. It
Sure.
was just whether it was we've gathered enough elements from the Cowboys themselves to have them speak on it,
Hmm.
or if it wasn't that way, it's like, okay, what's the way that we approach it? Do we do a nice tribute? Do we, write a small essay on him, or like it could have been taken a few different ways, but I think it worked that you were able to hear from the players and the coaches and everyone in that building themselves for that moment. Because that's, like you said, it's very sensitive, and there's no one better to speak on him and his character than the guys in that building.
You all handled it very well. I apologize if I characterized it any other way.
Mhm.
Just to be
Yeah.
clear, I thought you all handled it wonderfully. I was just curious what that thought process is like, because
Yeah.
I think it must be challenging enough when you're just talking about the fun of football. I'm sure it is.
Sure.
It feels like drinking out of a fire hose when so many things are happening all at once. I think about the Cowboys Eagles game, the 21-point comeback. And so my question
Mhm.
is, you're a fan of the Eagles, you mentioned it, but how often are things happening, and what is your personal process? Do you have some sort of notebook, or is it your notes app where you're like, this has got to be it? Like things that you're not aware of,
Mhm.
not necessarily sound bites that you're likely capturing, but things that the whole world is seeing that you're like, we have to touch on this. We have to zig and zag through these, flash points to tell the story that we want to tell because this is so important. That must happen all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a good mix of like Shannon and I, who's the co-director, my co-director, we're very up to date with what's happening with that team. So like usually at films, it's like you have a few assignments going on at once, but no, when it's Hard Knocks, you're just on Hard Knocks. So it's very easy. And we're at the facility with the Eagles every single day. So it's very easy to be locked in on the Eagles and the
Mm.
Eagles only. So we know what's being talked about online. We know what the storylines are. We know what people are interested in. So I think kind of to that same point, we most of the times get very lucky of like having either a player in when they're wired say something about the topic that can then allow us, that's a good way to get into it, and then with script we can kind of, with script and other elements, we can kind of expand on it a little bit. But I think a lot of the storylines it depends on what we actually capture, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
It does. It also makes sense that you would be targeted in what you're looking for generally, based on an ongoing story online. The Eagles are
Mhm.
not short of those, obviously. And so
Mhm.
I'm also curious, when you ask player X or player Y to sit down, is there any point in the conversation where it's, you know people are saying this. And maybe it's a benefit to the player. Like, hey, let's get you on camera. Let's kind of nip this in the bud, or let's get your thoughts on it. I mean, that has to
Mhm.
be awkward, but also necessary at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think we ran into those situations too much this season. Like I think week to week, the way we approached it is just there's so many big personalities on the
Right.
Eagles. So we wanted to spread the love. I don't think until playoffs we really even repeated on a player mic. Yeah, I don't think we did because there just are so many personalities, so many characters. So I feel like because we've been in there for a while, you kind of start gaining like a relationship with the players to where they trust you and you're able to word questions like in an interview in a way that is respectful to them. Um, there's a mutual respect there. So I think there's a way to ask things. And I think that way is why we're able to get a good answer from a player or, just them understanding that we're also just there to do our job and that we're ultimately looking out for them. Like
Right.
yeah.
So I want to be very clear that I am not framing this question in a way where I don't view you all to be professional. I trust
Mhm.
NFL films more than I do most companies in the world.
Mhm.
And I also understand that we're in a moment where everyone has a take on what being a journalist should or shouldn't be relative to fandom. But you are
Mhm.
an Eagles fan, you mentioned it. I think that's a strength relative to what you're doing here. And
Mhm.
I think that allows you to tell a story in a way that someone who was a Chargers fan, I don't mean to keep picking on them,
Mhm.
or someone who wasn't a fan of anyone, like that has to allow you a different perspective because you know what like-minded fans are looking for. I think
Right.
that's an incredible strength of NFL films in general, and I think that
Mhm.
that's shown throughout the entire run here.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny because like most of the people on our crew was like about a 12 to 15 people crew were all Eagles fans. So
That really
we
sucks for y'all,
knew
by the way. Just, terrible. Yeah.
we knew what, certain comments that the outside world was saying. And we were like, and I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning, we were like, we don't know what we're walking into,
Right.
like this is a new team. I haven't worked with them personally ever. Um, and it could not have been more opposite than I feel like what I was seeing online. Like the guys genuinely clicked with each other. They're
Hmm.
genuinely friends, not just on the field. Like they hang out outside of the Eagles facility. Like I think that was the biggest thing for me. And I was like, I know our fans are super passionate, but like I almost felt like because an Eagles fan, I wanted to show
Right.
other
No,
Eagles
that's
fans
my point. Like that's a great strength.
and the world where I was like, these guys genuinely, one, love to come here every day. They love to fight for each other. They love to fight with each other. Like it was really night and day from what I was seeing online to what I was seeing in person.
That's I mean terrible because it's the Eagles, but wonderful in a general way. Along those lines, in everything that you did relative to the season, what did you I don't want to say you didn't like anything about the Cowboys, Commanders, or Giants, but in
Mhm.
maybe it was in editing or viewing something or hearing something. What was something you picked up about? It can be all the teams, one of the teams that you're like, okay, they're pretty cool. Like what was something interesting that you learned about them that you maybe wouldn't have, picked up on because you were working on a different type of assignment?
I think well, I got to know Dan Quinn, which I thought he was really cool.
Sure.
Um, I was very fascinated at the way that we handled the Zach Ertz season-ending
Yeah.
injury to where, that becomes a conversation. He was mic'd up. It was a conversation with him, and I think we handled it really well because I think it was a moment where us fans, like, we kind of forget that these guys are humans, they have emotions. And I think it was one of those moments that really humanized him and also just I think it made everyone just like slow down for a second, like, wow, these guys are real people under the helmet.
Hmm.
So that I thought was a moment that was good for fans to see. Obviously terrible what happened.
Right.
But I think those moments, like it was like Jalen Phillips when we interviewed him, he mentioned that we had him mic'd up also for his ACL injury in Miami. And he was the first player that really I've heard say like, I was glad that was captured because
Mm.
it humanized me, and like players were able, or people were able to live that moment with me, which I never really heard before. And it seems like that's the way Ertz took it as well, because like, I don't know, I'm like, I don't know if I would want that out there, but then it's like, it was a very powerful moment that, I mean, it made me cry. And I think the directors, Tim and Steve, worked really closely with everyone at the Commanders and with Zach Ertz himself to make sure that moment played the way it did.
I think that's a great example. And I don't know, obviously keep tabs on the NFC East. I don't know any Eagles fans who truly held beef with Zach after the Nick Sirianni dust up last year. But that helps, right? Like that I think closes a circle for some people. I also and I had I spoke to
Zach's
Shannon.
loved in Philly, I will say. He's
No, no,
loved.
obviously. I spoke to Shannon after the Cardinals All or Nothing season in 2015,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I said at the time to her that that would be so cool to have if you were on that team, like just as like a keepsake. Like you included the Zach Bond photo book that his wife made in the most
Yeah.
recent episode, and so like
Mhm.
you're right. This is a horrible thing. It's an injury, but I have a 4 year old, and I think like that would be an incredible thing to show him someday if that were me, right? Like this is a teaching tool, a teaching moment. Like it's
Mhm.
just it's something that's a part of life that is documented that you
Yeah.
can learn and grow and use from.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think everyone can learn from moments like that. Not We're not all playing football,
right.
obviously. We're not all more prone to those injuries, but it was just he is such a pro, Zach Ertz, and just like he's such a great guy. And I think it was a moment, like you said, where all of us just like stop and feel with him.
Totally. I want to close on some fun ones, and a question that I asked Chris Weaver once that I'm curious for your take on. So when I was prepping for this and I found your Instagram tweet, I saw you were a fan of Euphoria.
Yes.
I'm not, but so I'm happy that you got to work in the HBO world here.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But so my question is, focusing on the Eagles, if you had to compare the 2025 Eagles season that now is over to any relatively, fresh, recent show, movie, whatever. I don't know enough about Euphoria, whether or not it could be that, but what would
Euphoria, I do not think would be even in the same.
right? But what would it be? It's we're approaching award season in film and television, coming off the
Mhm.
Golden Globes, so maybe it's a recent, production, but something that feels similar in plot and overall development to what you just saw.
Oh my God, RJ, you're getting me here. Let me think.
For what it's worth, we're technically I'm vamping for you. We're technically a part of a writers guild, and so I've got some screeners. I'm very excited to watch Wicked for Good. Still haven't seen it.
Oh, I
Uh,
haven't seen that either. I
and
saw the first one and I was dying. I honestly, I didn't know much about Wicked,
it's
but
the
I was on
best.
the plane. Yeah, I was on the plane watching the first one and I was like, wait, there's more to come? Like I needed it to end for me.
Yeah, they got
I
you.
was not patient enough, but now, yes, I need to watch that.
Well, you
Mm.
had a thought on Wicked, which I wasn't prepped for because I was trying to buy you time to think of something to compare the Eagles
Thanks.
to. So I'm also interested in watching Marty Supreme. That's on the list. I haven't gotten there.
Okay, I'll
Um,
put that on my list.
And
Oh
on
my God.
HBO, I've never seen Mad Men all the way through, so I'm currently watching that.
I
So
haven't seen that
I was
either.
bouncing between Mad Men and Hard Knocks. But to equate the 2025 Eagles to something, it could be an old movie.
Oh my God, I'm so bad at this. Let
I
me
would
think.
say, if I may, Home Alone 2, because it was kind of the same plot as 2023, like same sort of thing. Lots of online chatter, you know what I mean? That disrupted the team coming
Hey,
off of a
that's a
Super
good one,
Bowl
but you
appearance.
had time to think about it.
I know I did. I tried to give you time, Michelle, but you just were interested in what I was saying, so the time didn't work out. But Home Alone 2 is kind of my take here.
That's a good one. Can I
Okay,
steal yours?
you can steal it. Then my last one is something you mentioned that Mad Men would go on your list. I once asked Chris because everything you all do sometimes gets diluted down to just football when it's really their movies and their
Mhm.
masterpieces and the way you all put them together. And so I once asked Chris, what is something you would recommend for people to watch that you enjoy the presentation of? Also on my list, I haven't finished it, so please don't tell him. The Crown. But he said he just the like settings in it were gorgeous and beautiful from
Yeah.
his viewpoint that I don't understand because I'm so primitive in this world. So what's something that you enjoy as a filmmaker yourself that we should all give a whirl?
Let me think, because I haven't watched much TV lately.
It could be a movie. Doesn't have to be a television show. And it
I
doesn't
mean,
have to be recent. It can be like your favorite movie of all time and you enjoy it for reasons X, Y, or Z.
my favorite movie, I have two favorite movies and they're very different.
Okay.
One's very one is The Notebook, which I love.
Sure. That's fair. If you're a bird.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my there we go. Yeah. And then my second one is Man on Fire with
Excellent.
Denzel Washington, which I watch that like once a year. It's on Netflix now. So I it's an easy put it right on. I love the storytelling in that movie. The acting in that movie is insane. I'm trying to think of something more recent that I've watched.
This is my actual last one. So to help you, not, I know you weren't prepared for those. You've worked on a lot of things at NFL Films. What's
Mhm.
one of your favorites? I know it would be hard to pick your abs. Maybe you can pick your absolute favorite, but outside of this season of Hard Knocks, something else we can go check out that you've had a hand in. What is? It
Yeah.
could be an episode of any NFL Films production, but I'm curious something that you were particularly proud of.
I absolutely loved the Hard Knocks training camp season with Detroit.
Mm,
Um, Dan Campbell was amazing.
you
The players, that roster was amazing. I had a lot of fun that summer. And I think I didn't know what to think about Detroit. Like, I feel like I was telling some friends I was going to Detroit for 7 weeks, and they were like, oh, like, thanks for you. And I was like, shoot, is it, And
yeah,
I got there and I was like, wait, I love Detroit. Like, I want to come back just for funsies.
yeah.
Detroit was the city was awesome. The fans were incredible. I mean, just that season after was great. Um, that was probably my favorite thing to work on, even still. I mean, Hard Knocks in general is hard to beat. Like, another thing my family says is how is a job that keeps you away from home for 7 weeks, something that you love to do so much? It's really hard to explain to
Hmm.
people unless you're like kind of in this industry of how working every single day for, what is it, like 8 to 12 hours, is enjoyable. But I think when you have the crew that we have and you have a team like the Lions that were so open, that were so welcoming, it's hard to beat. That one was hard, is going to be hard to beat.
That's awesome. I empathize. People wonder all the time, like, how do you work on Thanksgiving? This year, the Cowboys played on Christmas, and it's like, dude, I
Right.
mean, like, this beats, working on the railroad 100 out of 100 times. Like you
Yeah.
have like I'm winning every day here, and I feel you all put that into your work. That's the I think the highest compliment I can give you
Thank
all.
you. Yes, it
Enjoyed
is.
this season. I loved this chat, Michelle. You're the best. Congrats, like I said, belated on the 1 million Instagram followers. Big,
Thank
big,
you.
big deal. And great job here. It's super awful that you're an Eagles fan, but other than that, you're an incredible human being. So thank
I
you for the
like
time.
it. Okay. We're passionate.
Some people
Thank you
call
so
it
much.
that. We call it something else. But thank you for the time and enjoy the rest of the season.
Thank you so much, RJ. You as well. Nice talking to you.